then, of course, with patients, we had about one-third of patients who died from
Hey guys, so welcome again to my channel. This series in particular is going to be about finances and money, and this is going to be episode 1. So, the first thing I'd like to discuss is what the hell money is. Where people usually fuck up at is they don't understand what money actually is. Now, I will say this. Keep in mind that these series are things that I've learned over time, and since I am an advocate for learning and I try to learn something new every single day, that means I tend to use platforms like YouTube and other means like books, writing, stuff like that, articles, online, Google. I use a lot of my resources and I spend a lot of my free time trying to learn new things, which is really important because you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to adapt to new things. If you don't adapt, you stagnate. And when you stagnate, when new stuff comes along, you're not going to be able to get through it. Not everything's going to stay peaches and creams and happy. So, step 1 to finances and money, from everything that I've looked up and watched videos on and read books over, is that money is not what people think it is. So if you go to Google and you look up the definition of money, the definition you're going to find is this: current medium exchange in the form of coins and banknotes collectively. And you're also going to see the term liquid assets. So here's the thing about money. If you look at that definition, current medium, that means right now this is the way that we do things. In exchange, in the form of. So what that means is we are doing things in exchange for this value that's supposed to be made tangible. And the tangible medium is going to be coins, banknotes, dollar bills, all that kind of stuff, which is great, except for one teensy weensy little thing, right? So it turns out money doesn't keep its same value. $1 isn't always worth $1. $1 isn't always valued at $1. So, with that in mind, essentially what you're spending time doing is you're trading your time for money. You are working in exchange for these coins, these banknotes, these loans, these liquid assets. So in essence, what you're really doing is you're trading your time for money. You're trading your time for a piece of paper whose value can change at any point in time. There's this wonderful word that I come across a lot called inflation. And basically what it means is that the Federal Reserve will print out more money, which drives down the value of the dollar, because if there's way more dollars, then the value of $1 isn't so much. Think of it like cake. If there's only 5 slices of cake, one slice of cake that's a lot of cake in that one slice. But if you slice that cake up 36 goddamn motherfucking times, one slice of cake is no longer as much. It's not worth as much Because there's like, if you have one slice, if you've 1/37th of a cake, you gonna want another piece. You gonna want another couple of pieces, because that's not a lot. That ain't shit. There's still 35 other pieces. And that's just like a really gross oversimplified form or metaphor to think about. The thing that people fuck up at is they don't understand the part where you're trading your time for the money. So that might not sound inherently bad, but understand that your time is finite. Which means, well, first of all, you don't even know when the hell you're gonna die. That's, no one knows their expiration date. It's not written on your wrist. God is not going to send it to you in the form of a letter to your mailing address. You don't know when the hell you're gonna die. So when you're young, in theory, when you're young, you have more time, but you don't have a lot of money. And when you're old, sorry to say it like that, but when you're older, you realize that there's not too many more tomorrows. And so you don't have a lot of time, but maybe you have way more money than someone who's like 20. So understanding that time is finite and that money isn't, that's a big equation you want to get through your head. Because essentially, what that means is when you're making this trade, you're making this trade under the understanding that that money is going to be worth something. But with inflation, the same $5,000 that maybe your grandmother had is not going to be worth the same as $5,000 today. This is why if you have grandparents or older people in your family who are still up and kicking, they'll talk about how like milk used to be like 60 cents and gas could be like a nickel and candy could be like 3 pennies, and they tell them crazy stories, and you're over here like, what? Like my mom was telling me how she worked at 2 places. She worked at Wendy's and Radio Grill. But she had a whole ass house. She didn't have a car, but she had a house and she paid all her bills. And she had enough for food and taking care of a kid and all this and that. Like she was doing good. But in my mind, with nowadays, right? I'm like, you could be working full time at an okay job and be like struggling to make ends meet. And that's because minimum wage is not keeping up with inflation. So since inflation is occurring and the value of money is going down because there's more of it out there, if minimum wage is not keeping up with it, which it isn't, that means that now your work, where it used to be valued at, it is no longer valued in that same manner. If you say your time equals your money, then the way you work, your work ethic, you working, you showing up for work, equals a certain value, and that value can change and it's out of your control. So the reason why I'm saying step 1 to finances is understanding that fundamental equation and understanding what the fuck money is because you have to value it differently in order to get your own finances in order. And the biggest reality check that you can give yourself is understanding that equation. Time equals money. Time is finite. Money is not. With that in mind, if you're making, let's say, $20 an hour and you're blowing it all on booze and partying and stuff like that, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, to have a little fun. But if you don't understand that fundamental equation, you're more likely to fall into traps, a whole bunch of money traps. And there is a fuck ton of them. From what I've been reading and researching and whatnot, there's a lot of money traps that you can fall into. Because, see, if money equals your time, and time equals money. And time is finite, but money is not. Then you understand that you can easily entrap yourself to something that isn't even worth being trapped by. If you get yourself trapped and locked into credit card debt or a mortgage or an expensive brand new car, essentially you've put on golden handcuffs. You know, they're fluffy, they're nice, they're cool, but now you're locked down because you're stuck in this pattern of, well, I have to keep working to pay these things. So when work starts to go to shit, or, you know, your knee starts acting up, or you throw out your back, thinking about your health or your time is going to be the least of your worries. Because when you're balls deep in like that, it costs you your freedom. Because if you're not free to say, hey, I need to take this week off because my health, because you got a brand new Jaguar the other day, then you've put yourself in a compromising position. So once again, step one to getting your finances in order is understanding what the fuck money is and what money is not. For the fundamental purposes of this series, money, in my opinion, represents freedom. But keep in mind that it is a tool. At the end of the day, it is a tool. Let me tell you one more time for the ones in the back. It is a tool. And the thing about tools is that they're neutral. They can be used for good, they can be used for evil. It's all about how you use it. Not whether or not you have it, it's about how you use it. So with that, that's the end of this episode, and I hope you guys enjoy and continue on to episode 2. Y'all have a nice night. Peace out.